Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where last episode we began our final chapter, the resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, heading into a solemn old bailey of a new judge at the helm of Bardock Van Zeek's trial, Male Strongheart. Our testimony began with Gina Lestrade telling us what she had discovered about the victim, Gregson's movements, with a notebook mentioning a meeting at the Grouse that we have linked to a ship, the SS Grouse, as we reveal what we know. In that case, defense for the council prepares to present your evidence to the court now. Evidence to substantiate your claim that the victim was investigating the SS Grouse on 31st of October, not necessarily investigating, is how I look at it. Looking to travel shortly. Mission for the applicant and one additional business. Purpose of travel, police business. That's how I think anyway.
Take that!
What's this? A passport for travel issued to the victim. Dated 31st of October. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that just one day before the inspector's body was discovered, there's a distinct possibility he wasn't even in the country. Did you leave that fast, did it? Order! Order! This document is for passage to France. It does appear to have been officially authorized. The day before the SS Grouse arrived at Dover, it docked on the northern coast of France for a night. According to my father, who was on board, at the port of Dunkirk. Dunkirk, France. What could possibly have taken the victim there? I'm impressed, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I certainly didn't expect you to get your hands on that passport. What? You mean you knew about this? Uh-oh. The prosecution strategy for this trial has been laid down by the Crown Prosecution Office. On the day before the incident, the victim was investigating contraband dealings at a London club. That's the outcome of Scotland Yard's investigations and the line the prosecution has been asked to follow. But personally, I don't agree. I think the prosecutor's office is trying to hide something. What? And now that you've expertly disproven their assertion, I intend to reveal what I believe that something to be. What are you playing at, Prosecutor Asogi? A courtroom is a forum for the truth, my lord. Which is why it's my duty to present all the facts without exception. Let me guess. This was your intention from the outset, wasn't it? The reason Inspector Gregson secretly made his way to the steamship docked in France on the day in question was to carry out a mission for the Reaper. The Reaper? Order! Order! What on earth are you saying, counsel? The prosecution made an assertion in court yesterday. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine. By the Reaper's hand. But in reality, the truth is the opposite of that. What? Inspector Gregson wasn't investigating the Reaper at all. He was in fact acting for the Reaper. So, you're saying the mission he was undertaking was, obviously, an assassination. Bardock Van Zeeks never carried out any of the actual killings. Whenever the Reaper's victims lost their lives, he always had a cast-iron alibi. Which tells us that he must have had an accomplice. And you claim that was Inspector Gregson. What the hell do you think you're saying, eh? My boss would never have done nothing like that. And yet, when you consider all the facts, it all makes perfect sense. No, it can't be. We also arrived at the same conclusion, didn't we? That Inspector Gregson was operating as the Reaper. Even so, there's no way that the person giving him his orders was Lord Van Zeeks. No, the true Reaper is somebody else. Bardock Van Zeeks is not the Reaper. A predictable response from someone who's advocating for the man. And even if it's true that Gregson was operating as an agent of the Reaper, the suggestion that he went aboard the SS Grouse on an assassination mission doesn't follow at all. Oh, you have some solid reason for doubting the assertion, do you, Counsel? Absolutely. It's very simple. On the day in question, nobody was killed aboard that steamship. Professor Mikotoba and Judge Jigoku were on that very ship. If someone had been assassinated, I'm certain we would have heard about it. What's so funny? You're right, of course. No suspicious deaths were reported on board the ship. But I think perhaps you've missed the point. That's precisely why Inspector Gregson himself lost his life. What? Gregson did board the SS Grouse that night with the intention of dispatching his mark. But his mission ended in failure. Failure? It seems that the defense hasn't yet grasped a very important detail here. What are you talking about? What detail? Inspector Gina Lestrade. What? The victim's notebook that you read an excerpt from earlier. That doesn't contain details of secret investigations at all. It describes 10 years of assassination plots to be carried out by the Reaper of the Bailey. You're lying! Even if all of them bludgers what got taken out had it coming. The boss weren't the Reaper. Poor Gina. There's no question that Tobias Gregson was heavily involved in the Reaper's activities. You may just be an apprentice, but if you spent any time in Scotland Yard, you must have heard rumors. I ain't heard nothing, and I don't believe a word of it. Then testify again, as a representative of Scotland Yard. Consider it your chance to defend your boss. I don't... I concur. The witness will give a new formal testimony. Miss Lestrade, you will tell the court everything you know about Inspector Gregson's secret notebook. So, the Reaper's notebook. Yeah, this notebook does have a lot of stuff about what the Reaper got up to these past 10 years. Names of victims, dates and places and stuff, and the last entry in there was 31st of October. It said grouse for the place on that date, and then the name of the mark. There was a note about him being a criminal what got away from the Reaper in court 10 years ago or something. But honest, the boss didn't do none of it. He was just investigating the Reaper, that's all. Keep personal opinion out of your testimony, witness. We require only established fact here. This must be so hard for her. You can't deny it now, surely, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. What can I deny? The notebook contained the name of the final mark and the location where the assassination would take place. That's information that the victim could only have known if he was working with the Reaper. Ah! So, who was to be this final mark? Go ahead, Inspector Lestrade. Read the name for the court. The name that's written alongside the entry that mentions the grouse on 31st of October. How do you read this then? Reading's still not her strong suit. That ain't the problem, alright, Odo? It's a funny name. It ain't English. It's hard to read. So it's someone from overseas. Let me have a bash at it. Se-ish-iro, is it? Yeah, Seishiro. Jigoku, maybe? What? It can't be. Seishiro Jigoku. But that's Judge Jigoku. Seishiro Jigoku. Certainly not an English name, you're right.
Objection!
But that can't be right. I know Judge Jigoku, and I saw him the day before yesterday here in London. So I know for a fact that the man hasn't been assassinated. As I said, the Reaper failed. Oh. Gregson missed his chance to kill his mark and return to British shores. But the Reaper wouldn't tolerate the mistake, so he killed the inspector. Personally. The Reaper, of course, being the accused, Balok Van Zeeks. It's an undeniably logical argument. Kazuma, you planned for the trial to go this way all along, didn't you?
Hold it!
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice whilst I stand accused of murder. Lord Van Zeeks! The accused has no right to speak uninvited in court. You will return to the dock. I say nothing of whether or not I'm the Reaper. That's the task of this court to decide. But there is one thing I can say unequivocally. That girl is no detective. What? Nah, that's right, I ain't. I'm an inspector. Repeating rumors heard around the yard, reading entries from a notebook of unconfirmed origin. That's not testimony. It's practically a script. No doubt the rest of this trial will go exactly as you've clearly planned. Your hatred of me is understandable. In your mind, I'm sure I am the Reaper who sent your father to the gallows all those years ago. But you're in danger of becoming a far more sinister Reaper yourself by attempting to have me condemned with this feeble excuse for testimony. What did you say? Mr. Naruhodo, this is our chance. My lord, the defense requests that the defendant be allowed to speak. He may be privy to important information relating to the testimony just given by the witness. Very well. I'll make an exception and grant the request. The defendant may remain in the witness stand for the cross-examination. Then allow me to toast the court's impartiality. Don't raise your glass in my direction, sir. Counsel for the defense, begin the cross-examination immediately. At once, my lord. The Reaper's Notebook. Yeah, this notebook does have a load of stuff about what the Reaper got up to these past 10 years. Hold it! In other words, it shows that Gregson was basically acting as the Reaper. Not you and all, that ain't the only explanation, is it? Oh, he is here then. He could have been investigating the Reaper in secret, and that notebook said what he found out. If I may... When originally people began referring to me as the Reaper, I didn't object. I believe the power to intimidate London's criminal classes into compliance with the law to be beneficial. But you carried out your own investigations into the true identity of the Reaper, didn't you? Yes, and those investigations proved conclusively that Gregson was one arm of the Reaper. One arm? What are you on about? The Reaper's victims were all extremely shrewd criminals at the top of their game. There's simply no way one person could have taken them on alone. The Reaper is an organization, with you at its head. I have spies at the yard keeping me abreast of Gregson's movements, letting me know when he was elsewhere. So I've been able to check the most recent entries in his book. I knew the location. You knew it said Grouse. Believing it to be a reference to the Gentleman's Club, I went there on the day in question to investigate. Alone. Ah, so that explains why several members of the clubs claimed to have seen you there. But of course, the inspector was not there. Because at the time, he was making his way to the steamship docked on the northern coast of France, as shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. Very well then, back to your testimony about the contents of this notebook. Fine. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? You seemed a little shocked by something a moment ago. Oh, no, it's alright. I'm overthinking this, aren't I? Names of victims, dates and places and stuff, and the last entry in there was 31st of October. Hold it! Names of victims, dates, places and stuff. What in particular? Well, besides the victim's name, this other name kept cropping up. Whatever name was that? It's the one I told you yesterday. The same name, written over and over again. You mean Assassin? Yeah, that's the one. She's a friend of yours or something, isn't she? Were you even listening yesterday? Assassin. The assassin. What? Like a killer, you mean? Gregson was the tactician, the one who came up with the plan of attack. He investigated the marks thoroughly, finding out when they would be vulnerable and who to use to get at them. But the person actually executing his plans was someone else, you're saying? If that's true, then the Reaper does indeed start to sound like an organized group of vigilantes. Then perhaps what it said on the passport documents. Permission for the applicant and one additional person to travel. Could that additional person have been clearly the assassin who was meant to take Seishiro Jigoku's life? Gina, can you confirm that against the final entry that listed Grouse and Seishiro Jigoku? What name was written? Oh, well, that's the only entry that didn't have a name next to it, as it happens. What? It just had like a question mark or something there, I think? In other words, Gregson himself didn't know the identity of the assassin in that case. I'm really worried. But Gregson was the one making the plans, was he not? Oh, how infuriating. A nameless assassin? I hope going to France isn't like a code word itself. It said Grouse for the place and that date, and then the name of the mark. Hold it! And you're saying that the mark listed was Seishiro Jigoku? That's what it said! Funny name, if you ask me. And I thought your name was odd. And I thought your name was odd, like Odo. So pleased to have lost my crown there. Mr. Jigoku is the presiding judge of Japan's Supreme Court of Judicature. I remember the man. He came to our country as a visiting student 16 years ago, studying international law and diplomacy under your tutelage, Lord Strongheart. That bearded young fellow was a very able man, I must say. So Lord Strongheart was Judge Jigoku's mentor? If I'm not mistaken, he returned to Japan 10 years ago now. 10 years ago? After that fateful case? Precisely. In the aftermath of the Professor case, his repatriation was organized immediately. It's a mystery why such a man would be listed in the inspector's notebook. Yes, that's the question, isn't it? I didn't think it was possible, but the mood in here's got even worse now. Maybe I'll just keep talking. There was a note about him being a criminal what got away from the Reaper in court 10 years ago or something. Hold it! What do you mean a criminal? Judge Jigoku is no criminal. Well, don't ask me. I don't know nothing about it. Oh, do you remember what Father told us? The Judge Jigoku did once appear in court here in Britain. It was related to the Professor case, I'm sure. Yes, of course. You're right. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and, actually managed to break the witness stand. He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire, for which he was charged. It was a pitiful situation, yes. I'd forgotten all about it. But I prosecuted that trial too, as it happens. You did? It was considered to be an adjunct to the Professor proceedings, you see. But he was acquitted after being told to make a repatriation for the damage caused to the stand. And there you have it. Have what? Surely the accused hasn't forgotten his own rule. That there's no saving anyone who faces the Reaper in court, guilty or innocent alike. What? No! Are you suggesting that the reason Judge Jigoku was targeted for assassination? The man was sent back to Japan immediately after that trial. The Reaper had no time to do his work. But then, 10 years later, the mark returns to Britain once more. Perhaps now you start to see just how vindicative the Reaper is. Vindictive. Come on, that's absurd! Take someone's life for that! Isn't the whole premise of the Reaper absurd, killing those who have been found innocent? Clearly, the rules by which the man operates are beyond a sane person's comprehension. But... Right, I've had just about enough of this. Gina? All this nonsense about the boss planning to kill people. It's cobblers. Come on, Odo. Yes? Why aren't you saying nothing? Why aren't you yelling out objection or something? What? You've got to find a flaw. You do usually. Someone's lying here, no question. You've got to work out who it is. Please. For the boss. That outburst was an insult to the court and your own testimony. I might have known that a common pickpocket from the back slums couldn't make a detective. When this trial is over, you will forfeit your warrant card, Mr. Strahd. It is that clear. Whoa! I've had it with a lot of you. It lies every bleeding place you look in this world, innit? Well, I've had enough. Gina. So have I. After that little speech of Gina's, I've made up my mind. To do what, Mr. Naruhodo? There was one point in this cross-examination when something that was said just didn't sit right with me. One statement that seemed odd. Oh, do you mean... I'm not going to let Gina's plea for help fall on deaf ears. Come on, Odo, out! You've got to find a flaw somewhere. Okay. Hold it! I want to thank you, Gina. You helped me find my resolve. Eh? What do you mean? Amongst everything we've heard during this cross-examination, there's one thing that defies explanation. One inconsistency. What? An inconsistency? Really, Odo? I don't quite know what it means yet, but... Yes, there's an inconsistency in something that was said by... I mean, I'm guessing it's Kazuma on the basis that he had an issue with the first statement. Take that! By you, Kazuma Asagi. Me? Is this some attempt at filibustering, Counsel? Prosecutor Azugi has given no testimony. What are you suggesting I said that was inconsistent? You let something slip that you shouldn't have. When I present the relevant piece of evidence, I imagine you'll realize what you've done. Very well then, Counsel. Go ahead. What evidence reveals this alleged inconsistency in something Prosecutor Azugi has said? I have no clue! I guess I can't even history it back far enough to really check what's been going on. Nope. Oh. I might have got myself in a little bit of a tizzy by going ahead with this. Maybe I should have left it for now, gone back to that first statement, analysed it a bit more. So what is this statement? Well, then what is this testimony about? We got here through, well, a letter of introduction and the passport. So it's something related to the boat, etc. I'm thinking like... Well, he also knew about the passport. How did he necessarily know about that? I have no clue. Let's open this up again. Let's have a look inside. Right, you had a travel case with the passport in. do you see that? There's something stuck in the side of the trunk there. Yeah, we've seen it before. It's glinting. Looks like a fragment of metal of some sort. So it's actually... But it's wedged so tightly, I can't remove it. Well, don't cut yourself. You'd better leave it, I think. So we knew about the passport. He knew about this box. I have no clue what the statement is about. I'm just trying to wing things at the moment. There's blood that was mean he was killed around it. But seemingly the assault might have been potentially also by a swordsperson or something. Maybe the fight took place with that and it was used to block. But we do have one swordsman in the room. So I'm making a massive assumption here that there's something to do with the trunk at this point in time, on the basis of the what led us here, what we're talking about. Gregson, the book, the notebook that we're not allowed to read or actually have a look at. That night where he missed a mark, didn't assassinate someone, did assassinate someone. A travel case which would have been moving but was removed from the scene, subsequently recovered by Gina. Why was it removed? Because it has important evidence in it or on it. I so wish I could go back to that statement now. I can, but I'll get a penalty. So I may as well give it a go anyway, because I'm going to get a penalty out of, like, choosing to or not to. But let's give it a go.
Take that!
Am I along the right line, at least? This is a trunk that belonged to Inspector Gregson. I am on the right line. Because it's all related. Metal construction, is it? It's certainly very heavy. What's this? A bloodstain? And a relatively fresh one, too. What? You mean that ain't grease from all the boss's fish and chips? Fresh blood on the inspector's trunk. That suggests that the victim was traveling with that luggage when he was killed. That can't be. There was no mention of any trunk in Scotland Yard's report. Yes, there's a reason for that. Immediately after the inspector's body was discovered, one of the street's peddlers made off with the trunk, hoping to sell it. But I found it. Me, with me nose for trouble. Which means that nobody should have known anything about the trunk. Unless, of course, we're talking about somebody who was present when the victim was killed. So it is that knowing stuff about it. I didn't know if you necessarily knew about the passport, considering it was inside the trunk, which means you know the trunk as well. Okay, I wasn't massively far off. I just thought I was. And yet, during the cross-examination of the witness just now, you said this, Kazuma. Ah, here we go. Because at the time he was making his way to the steamship docked on the northern coast of France. As shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. Oh god, I didn't get that. I didn't... So the question is, how did you know about the inspector's trunk? We know the man went on a trip to France. Where else would he have put his passport?
Objection.
But you knew it was a metal trunk. Answer me honestly, Kazuma. On 31st of October, where exactly were you? At the port of Dunkirk, on board the SS Grouse. Is that the answer you're looking for, Ryunosuke? Kazuma, what did you... I hadn't considered the possibility before, but if Kazuma was there on the ship, then it can only have been for one purpose. Oh no, Mr. Naruhodo. Surely you don't think... Come on, Ryunosuke, you know the rules. The only thing that really talks in the courtroom is hard evidence. As I understand it, Inspector Gregson always took that case with him whenever he traveled. So as it stands, you've proved nothing. Kazuma, are you challenging me to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt? That you were there that day, in the same place as the inspector. He was there with Gregson. There's a clue that you've overlooked, a secret that trunk can tell us. I can't be sure at this point. I'll need to verify it. But I have a nasty feeling that I'm going to be right. The accusation being made is deeply disturbing, but nevertheless, we must test it. The defense will identify for the court where in the trunk this alleged clue is to be found. Where's the evidence that ties Prosecutor Asugi to Inspector Gregson? Do I have to open the chest first? Okay, I can open it without presenting. Let's have a look inside. I think I kind of have to open it to see the metal properly.
Got it!
There's a small piece of metal lodged in the wall of the trunk here. Like the tip of a blade.
A blade?
Kazuma, slung around your waist as ever today, is the esteemed blade, Kuruma. Of course it is. Won't you draw it, here in this courtroom, for all to see? Exercise caution, my learned friend. That man is the son of London's most notorious killer. Bailiff, watch Prosecutor Asugi like a hawk. That won't be necessary.
Oh no!
Oh no, indeed. The tip of the blade is broke. He definitely attacked Gregson. At the very least, he slashed the trunk, which leads to a looking like an altercation. However, the death of Gregson was by gunshot wound, was it not? Not by sword. So what more mysteries can we reveal from this fact? I guess we'll leave you cliffhangered with that and continue on next time on the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. I'll see you then for more. Bye-bye.